Hello everyone. For today's video, I'm going to be doing something different. I'm going to be answering some questions which quite a lot of you have asked in the comment sections of my videos. So just getting on straight to it. The first question, which apologies, a viewer asked quite some time ago, which was he or she had a custom 74 in fine, and basically they wanted to know, what benefit or should they upgrade to the 823 in, I presume in fine as well. So first of all, these two pens have quite a large difference in terms of their price. The Custom 74 is, I would say, roughly about 160 US dollars, depending on where you buy it. And the 823 is about 270 the last I checked on JetPens. So there's quite a large jump in price. The obvious question out of the way, do you get 2 times the pen when you go to 823? I don't think so. I think the Custom 74 is a very, I'm trying to use the right word, it's a very adept pen. It's a very good pen for what it is, right? And you could probably use this pen pretty much for the rest of your life and be happy with it. But then the 823 brings something to the table, and it's not the vacuum mechanism. I mean, you've probably seen lots of videos for the 823 and everyone kind of extols the virtues of having a vacuum filler. I don't think that's it, right? So the main advantage to the 823, and that's pretty obvious, is actually the nib. It's a larger nib. So if you just compare the two sizes of nib, you can pretty much see the difference in the size of nib. And lots of people think, oh, you have a larger nib, automatically means that the nib performs better. It's not always the case, but in this case, I think the 823's nib is superior in some ways. First of all, the size of the nib allows the tip of the nib to be a bit further away from paper when you're writing. And this distance down here, even though it might sound very trivial, it does make a difference when you are writing, right? So the feel would be different. And for people who kind of prefer that extra length, that makes a difference. The other thing that I've found out from using these two pens is that the kind of, at least for these two particular pens, we all know that there's nib variation when Pilot produces these nibs. But from my two pens down here, I found that the Custom 74's nib is ever so a little bit finer, right, compared to the 823. And it has a sweet spot, right? So it has kind of an angle whereby it would write very well. And then once you switched a little bit, it would kind of stop for a while before it kind of catches up, right? You can still write at different angles, but it has kind of a smaller sweet spot. So the other thing about, so back to the 823, that sweet spot, even though it's there, sorry, my alarm, it's not as big. It's not as small as the Custom 74. So basically, you can pretty much pick it up and write depending on how you like your angle of the nib to be, and it would write fine. The other thing that you have to take note of about the 823 is basically like I mentioned, the balance and basically the weight is very different from the Custom 74. So basically the 823 is definitely you can feel the weight all the way down the pen. For this pen, it's very balanced, right? And it feels light after carrying the 823. Okay, so that was the first question. The second question I got was, how does the Lume Extra Fine kind of write differently from the Kakunos? So for this one, I'll have to do a bit of writing. So before I kind of move on to that question, if I were to write with the custom 823, right? So this is the Pilot. You will notice that the 823, and I've inked this up, both pens up with Shin Ryoku, which is again one of the inks that I'm kind of using a lot more compared to the others right now. And you'll notice that basically in terms of the widths is pretty much the same width wise, and in terms of wetness and feel, obviously the 823 is smoother, right? So sorry, depends whether or not you kind of like that smoothness, but definitely that 823 is just a tiny bit smoother. So talking about the Lume's nib width, so I'm going to do a bit of writing with the Lume. So this is the Extra Fine. I'm not using any pressure at all. I'm just literally using 2 fingers to write. And this is the Kakuno. Sorry. So this is an Extra Fine. This is also an Extra Fine. So basically with no pressure at all. Just talking about flex, if I press a bit harder, that's what happens. I mean, there's a little bit of skipping down here. And if I press a little bit harder, you can see that the Extra Fine on the Lume it looks like this. Okay, so there's a little bit of skip down here. So I hope that answers the 2 questions. The last question, which I just got, was from a viewer who asked, whether or not if she or her dad had a Metropolitan, which is pretty much the same pen down here, what is this pen, which I spoke about a few videos ago, which was actually the Falcon, Pilot Falcon, is this kind of way better than the Metropolitan? Right, I'm just gonna double check the question, whether that was the actual question. So the question was whether or not the Falcon is better than the Metropolitan. So that's a difficult question because in many ways, I think in terms of finish, the Metropolitan is a very nice finish. It has I think one of the nicest clips, very, very elegant that Pilot has actually made. And build wise, it's a very good pen, right? So compared to the Falcon, which it's pretty much plastic and it feels light, and if you really look at it, depending on your taste, probably is not as attractive looking as the Metropolitan. And the finish is kind of debatable as well. Where the Falcon excels, primarily is actually the nib. So basically, these 2 nibs, right, they look the same, right, in a way. However, this particular nib it's I wouldn't call it a flex nib. This Falcon nib is pretty soft, and you can actually do line variation if you're skilled enough to kind of write that way, right? So I'm not a calligraphist, right? But if you are very good at writing with, very nice Spencerian type writing with line variation, this pen would allow you to do that. This pen will not, right? However, in terms of writing, right, if I were to write with this Cocoon / Metropolitan, right? So basically it is sorry for not speaking because I always have a problem writing and speaking at the same time. So it is as pretty much as smooth or adequately smooth compared to, sorry, I just realized I put 823 for this second one. So basically it was the 74, I think. So basically it is as smooth as these other pens, right? So smoothness, it's pretty much up there, right? And it's a very good writer, and so on. Adequate wetness for me, at least for this particular pen. But for the Falcon, right, you can actually, even though it can produce a very, very fine line, because this is the soft fine, right? So basically you can see it's pretty much the same width. It can actually do, like, I'm gonna attempt this. It can actually do this, which is, kind of that's the extent of how much of variation I can do. Whereas this pen will not be able to do that, right? So if for everyday writing, this is pretty much, I would say, good enough, and for most people, for nearly everyone, right? This one is probably more for people who like softness in the nib while writing, and also, artists or calligraphists who do things like this. So I hope this video today was useful. Please send your questions along. I think one of the main reasons why I actually make these videos is to answer questions and pass along a little bit of what I've found out by using fountain pens to you, the viewer. So I hope you found this useful, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.